Hey, my name is Michael. Welcome back to the Growth Mindset channel. So in this video, I actually wanted to take some time to go over a couple of questions that were posted on the BiggerPockets forum. And so these questions that I'm going to go over today, there's little or no response on. So I figured it'd be good to take this time to just review what they have and their specific questions. And hopefully that'll help you guys if you're experiencing a situation similar to this. Please know that I am not sponsored by BiggerPockets. These are real life questions, so I felt like it'd be most applicable to just literally go through them one by one. And these questions would be very unique to the person asking on the forum. So if you have any common questions that you have on real estate, I would encourage you to check out my top 10 questions on real estate video. I'll post in the link below as well, but that's a very good foundation to go through if you're interested about real estate or you don't really know much about it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and go through these questions. I have a 3-unit apartment in New Jersey. Due to COVID, 2 of the units were not able to pay rent in April. One owns a barber shop, another one owns a restaurant which is close to the property as well. I understand that these are times of uncertainty, but what are the other landlords doing in these situations? Do I apply fees? Do I apply the security deposit to their balance for this month? What happens when the next month comes and they still can't pay their rent? I know it's hard to tell what the future says, but it's changing day by day. Just would like some feedback on a situation you might be familiar with. Okay, so obviously with the COVID, there's causing a lot of issues with people being able to afford and pay for rent. If you are a real estate owner and you have this exact issue, currently there's 2 big options for paying for this type of loss in mortgage. It's the EIDL loans, and then there's another loan that the government has been giving out for company owners. So if you're having a hard time paying for mortgage due to your tenants not being able to pay for rent, I would encourage you to look up those loans online that are referred to business owners getting extra money out to help pay for this time. And the cool thing too about these type of loans that are online and available right now and grants available for business owners is that you can actually claim up to $100,000 of a loan value for an interest rate of 1% at the current time I'm making this video, and you get that upfront without having to pay for it up to a year. So if you haven't heard of that, I would encourage you to take a look at it, and hopefully it gets better from here. Oh, another thing to add to that, if you are having tenants that are not able to pay for their mortgage, what I've been hearing in the real estate community is that you can actually call up your lender and inform them that your tenant is not paying, and perhaps you couldn't pay for the mortgage as well, because it's going to go back to the property owner to pay for the mortgage. You can actually apply for a forbearance on your loan, which banks that I've been working with and hearing about, they're literally just kicking out the loan month by month without any additional interest charged to the loan. So that's a very fortunate thing for lenders out there. I would encourage you to just talk to your bank and ask them. Most banks actually are going up to investors and saying, hey, we are offering this perk for you due to this situation. But if you haven't heard of it yet from your bank, I would simply just give them a call or write them an email and see what they have to say. I have a contractor asking for more money because of an estimated shortfall on a design build project. He's saying he underestimated electrical and plumbing. I'm not inclined to pay him more, but the project seemed to be more challenging for him than I initially thought it would be. He seemed to have issues with county inspectors not following the plans, jumping ahead of inspections, and piped into the wrong underground drain line. Oof. I feel bad for my contractor, but I don't know why I would pay for his mistakes. I've already given him more time to finish, and I did the HVAC for him for free. I'm curious, what's the best way you've dealt with contractors who've made estimated mistakes, and if you consider a bonus payment at all, and why? And he says he's in contracting himself. He still doesn't know how to squash the emotion out of this. He's looking for any tips on how to deal with this situation. So in this scenario, what I would recommend is that if you see a contractor that is starting to slip up and things are costing much more than what he or she initially quoted, and on top of that, the timeline is being kicked out a lot farther. Okay, so this is where you got to come back to thinking that you're buying an investment property for business. So every single thing that happens in your business is up to you to hold on that schedule. So if you see a contractor that is slipping up, and it might not be intentional, and you might be able to give them 1 or 2 attempts at trying to correct the time, and maybe they're going to give you a discount, which they probably should offer you if your schedule is being afflicted by that. Because every month that you're not making money is every lost potential income. So you don't want your business to go underwater because of a contractor. So in this scenario, I would recommend getting a couple more contractors to bid on the exact project that you're trying to get done and see what their quotes are. And then I would go out to your local community. You could probably post on Facebook if you have any in your area and ask for recommendations for good contractors. And that's typically a good way to go, going off of good reputation and going down that route. I would not inform your current contractor you're looking out for other bids, because they will probably just do a poor job. So at that point, I would just cut ties with the current contractor once you have a new contractor in place and have them finish that project. Definitely though, that's a learning experience, and there's always going to be hiccups in the business. So what I would do is just let that contractor go on this deal, but still keep the connection going. So you can tell them that you'll look forward to using them again on the next deal, and hopefully that project won't be as challenging for them. I am new to cold calling and can definitely use any tips. Went driving for dollars and got a bunch of vacant houses that are in very distressed condition. And I got the owner's information. I called the property owner, introduced myself. Would you be interested in selling the property? I'm interested if you can take an offer. And then the seller comes back, or the person that owns the property comes back and says, no, I don't want to sell, and then just hangs up on you. So in this scenario, this is actually very common. I've experienced this a lot too with doing driving for dollars also, and emailing and calling the owner of a property. So sometimes homeowner isn't just willing to sell, or is not ready to sell, or is not in the mood to sell. And so you have to understand that that is just part of the business. What I would recommend is just leave your contact information with them and say, if there's ever an opportunity or a time where you might be wanting to sell, please think of me first. And usually that works out pretty well. In the past, I've received phone calls months and emails after contacting a potential seller, and they reach back, and then you go ahead again and assess the situation to see if it's a good deal for you still to that day. So I wouldn't keep bugging them, because they're gonna just get more annoyed at you. Just drop your name, say, hey, thanks for responding, and keep me in mind. My tenant in California wants to get a small hypoallergenic dog. I love dogs and I see no issue with this, but would like to see how to proceed in terms of month-to-month lease they're on, and if anything needs to be changed. The liability could fall onto me, and any documents I should have to send me shots. Okay, that part's confusing. Okay, so the tenant, sounds like what they're saying is the tenant wants a small dog. Currently they're on a month-to-month lease, and their owner is trying to figure out, what can I do in this exact situation? Because the original terms were to not have a dog, and now they want one. So in this situation, if they want a dog and you are okay with them having a dog, and there's no restrictions in that area, because if you're in a condo, there might be rules in that condominium area. But if it's your own house and you own it, this is up to you what you want to do. So what I would do is, if you are okay with a small dog, I would say, sure, that's acceptable. I would just update their lease to state that they can have a dog of a certain amount of weight. So that could be 25 pounds, 50 pounds, and so forth. And typically, what I would recommend is that if you have a pet that's with the tenant, then I would charge an initial fee for having the pet. And I would just call it as a pet fee that stays in their reserves to help pay for any damage that does happen with having the pet. And it's really as simple as that. You just update your terms, have a pet fee drop in, and then let them know that any significant damage is caused by the pet will be paid by the renter. So not that too hard to deal with. I actually like to have I like to advertise properties with pets allowed, because that opens up your pool of people that can actually rent in your location. Because believe it or not, if you have a pet, or you have a potential tenant that has a pet, it's a lot harder for them to find a place to live at. So when you make it very clear that you're willing to take on pets, you're just that much more likely to have a tenant. Need your opinion about PM, property management situation I have with my property management for one of my properties. I had a quote from my property management to fix up and clean a unit in my building for a purpose of getting a new tenant in place. I was quoted one price, but after some work, the price went up $200 on the management website. I checked the costs of the work, and it's just a bunch of different prices that just shows maintenance. No clue what the charges are for. Yeah, that can be very common. Let's keep going. So when I asked about the higher price and why they did not ask for my approval, I was told this is typically for these types of items, a further approval is not warranted and not required by maintenance workers to be given any prior notice before performing their time. So basically what they're saying is that they don't have to contact you for charging such a small fee, because that will just slow them down. And then so they're asking, is this common for property management? This is my first time dealing with the property management, and I'm still learning how to run the business. Should I look for a different PM? Okay, so for this situation, you probably, first thing I would encourage you to do is go back to the contract that you had with your property management when you signed for them to take over the property to help you manage it. Clearly, you are the boss in this situation because you own the property and you're paying the property manager to take care of your unit. I would first go through the contract to make sure there wasn't a requirement or a minimum requirement to have the property management contract you when they have bids in place for a rehab or a small fix. To answer your question, yes, it is very common to have property management perform work under a certain payout or a certain minimum balance. Typically they're around $250 or so, and you can determine this with your property management before signing the contract. So I would just go back and review those terms. And so, that's not really that bad of a deal. If they're charging a lot of situations where it's $200 and you don't know what it is, you have the right to ask your property management to clarify what those $200 were spent on. That's not wrong at all for you to do. In fact, I would encourage you to question your property management just to make sure they're not charging you for things that aren't actually a problem. They could be saying they're changing a light fixture, but then they charge you $200. So, you just want to make sure that your property management is doing things honestly and with integrity. So it's always good to follow up with them and pay attention to those numbers. Not only if you go ask your property management why they charge $200, it just shows that you're paying attention to your business, and they will appreciate that much more because you're very attentive on how those fees are being charged on your account. So I got a tenant that wants to update the kitchen and works for a company that does kitchen remodels. Claims he has a surplus of countertops and other materials to improve. He says that he doesn't want anything like it, or he says he doesn't want anything for it, like lower rent, etc. He just wants a better kitchen than what is currently in place that will stay with the property and when they move out. So no cost to me. What do you think? Should I let him do it or tell him no? Okay, so in this situation, I think it depends on what type of units this is. So if it's an apartment complex, you probably want everything to be standardized. And if this is just a single family home, and then there's a little more customization that's involved, and that can be allowed with those type of properties, in my opinion. I think it's good that the tenant is wanting to improve the property without asking for lower rent and is not charging you to pay for any of this work or the materials for the property and the project. What I would do if you're concerned is ask the tenant to take pictures of the countertops that they want to put in, and then just have them give you maybe a paragraph or so of what they're expecting and planning to do on that project. And then I would probably write a contract out in place to say if there's any significant damage that's involved with the project, then the tenant would pay for any of those repairs. And probably also state that you would have a professional licensed inspector come out just to make sure everything's done properly for safety, and so the next tenant in place can still live there in good terms. I would encourage this if you're not looking for something that's standardized, like an apartment complex. So if it's a single family home, I would encourage it. And probably another good note for this as well is that if you have a good rental rate with that tenant already, with them wanting to fix it up even more, that shows you that they are probably wanting to stay there for a long term. So that's also good, because if you have if you always have tenants that are flipping in and out all the time, you're gonna have to pay for cleanup fees and rehab fees, and not having the tenant or not having the property filled 12 months out of the year. So I would definitely encourage this person to do it. Ask them to take photos of before and after the work, and then have the contract in place that it just states what their scope of work is, just so you guys are all on good terms and speaking the same language. So that looks like I have all the questions from these forums I have listed up right now. If you liked this video and how I just went over scenarios on people asking questions online of how to deal with each scenario, give me a thumbs up. If you have a specific question on real estate, literally just shoot me a comment below and I'll definitely check it out. If you want to see more videos, again, let me know. And I hope you enjoyed it and have a great day. Take care.